Hello and welcome to episode number 366. This is the Project Management Podcast at pm-podcast.com and I'm Cornelius Fichtner. Please remember that we are a listener-supported podcast, and if you enjoy our interviews, then stop by at pm-podcast.com/premium for your subscription options. For over a decade now, Aras People has been publishing their yearly project management benchmark report, and I've invited Lindsay Scott to introduce it to us in its latest version. If you are a project manager who wants to become PMP or PMI ACP certified, then the easiest way to do so is with our sister podcasts, the PM Prepcast and the Agile Prepcast, and study for the exam by watching the in-depth exam prep video training from pmprepcast.com. Lindsay says about the report that even after all this time of doing the research and seeing the changes over the years, it's hard not to be drawn to the fact that project management is still an exciting and growing field. The fact that projects are still failing suggests that even with all the effort and time spent, we are still searching for that magic bullet which will ensure that we deliver. Of course, the report doesn't give us this magic bullet, but it provides interesting insights into what you and I are doing day after day. There are two options for you to get a copy of this report. First, if you are a free or a premium subscriber to the podcast that you're listening to right now, then check your subscription on your phone or tablet, because a copy of the report is included as part of our podcast. But your second option, which is actually the better one, is to stop by at the araspeople.co.uk website and sign up to get your free copy. Because if you sign up in that way, you're also going to be invited to fill in the survey for the next report. And now, here's your report card. Enjoy the interview.
The Project Management Podcast's feature interview.
Today with Lindsay Scott, Director of Aras People.
Hello, Lindsay. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, Cornelius. Great to be back. It's been a while, so yeah, great to
Yes. Now, to get us started, let's look at the background of this report itself. It is called the Project Management Benchmark Report 2016. Why are you doing this report? What were you trying to find out?
Well, we started doing the report a while back, and essentially we wanted to try and get a view of an agnostic view of what the project practitioners, primarily in the UK, some things about them which would help them in terms of their development, as a kind of tool to do some comparisons with their peers. So back in the early days, it was very much about, what kind of salary they can command, what kind of rates they can command, and things about, the ins and outs of their career, like their remuneration packages and things like that. So initially it started out quite basic.
For how long have you been doing this?
It's 11 years. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's now it's become something which is obviously you can do the year-on-year comparisons, and if that's not interesting, if you can do 5-year comparisons, if things have not changed that much, but since we've started, we've added a lot more things in that we feel are topical. So each year there's the baseline stuff around salaries and what have you, and then we get opinions based on what might be current issues or challenges that people are facing, or if indeed there's stuff within the project management profession, and actually we just want to get a voice out from the practitioners, and see what they actually really think about some of this stuff.
Yeah. Let's talk about these people quickly. How did you get the data from them, and who are these project managers that provide that data to you?
Yeah, it's PM practitioners. So we use, so it's a number of roles, from things like a portfolio management, project managers, program managers, PMO, and that's primarily your practitioner types of roles. We get them. I mean, obviously, the role that I primarily perform with Aras People, which is around recruitment, people always say to you as well, it must be a recruitment document. It's just going to be people that are on your database filling it out. And actually, they only constitute about 35% of the respondents. So a lot of the people, we've got, a bit like you, Cornelius, we've got a pretty good network out there online. People hear about it through various channels, not just in the UK, but across the world. So, I think the fact that we've been doing it for 11 years means that you do get people coming back and taking it again and again because they're interested in the responses.
You mentioned recruitment. Is that the core business of what Aras People does?
It is the core business, but the secondary side to it is we do a lot of career-related stuff around project management. So, obviously the recruitment is, that keeps the engine going, but we do a lot of things like one-to-one sessions with practitioners that have got, particular challenges in their career and guidance around some of the stuff about how to get on, how to move, switch industries, that kind of stuff. So I suppose we're not traditional recruiter in that respect because we've actually come from a project management background ourselves. So, and it's the reason why the report as well, because actually, having worked in this profession before we started the business, we're just really interested, in how project management's evolving and changing. And we'd like to be able to, not just talk to our potential clients about those changes, but actually, practitioners as well.
Since your focus is a bit on recruitment, does that mean the report is mostly interesting for project managers who are currently seeking jobs?
Not at all. Because, like I said, it's useful to anybody to understand what some of your peers are doing in the project management world. I mean, I think generally we can't help but be a bit nosy about what other people are doing, what kind of salaries they're pulling, what kind of education levels they are, what kind of training they do. All of those things are just interesting stuff about the profession that's got absolutely nothing to do with, helping you trying to find a job. So it's open to everybody, absolutely.
All right, enough about the background. I can hear our listeners starting to nod off here. Let's jump into the report.
Sorry.
It is the Project Management Benchmark Report 2016. Please give us the top 3 findings this year.
Okay, all right. I'm going to be a bit cheeky and I'm going to have two within one, okay? Because I think they're interrelated. The age and gender. So they are interchangeable. They've got relations because, it's about obviously men and women working within project management, but the age. What we found, and we have found this over a number of years, but the reason why it's one of the top findings for this particular report was about the ticking time bomb in project management, about the fact that the age profile is continuing to go up. And if we look at the figures from the latest report, over 42 years of age, that's 61% of people in the UK of that age, versus we did the rest of the world, and that's 52%. So we're finding that the project practitioners are it's the profile of them is getting older. I mean, there's perhaps no surprise with that actually older workers, more experienced, tend to be in project management. They tend to be second career in project management, having started out as something else when they were younger. But what we've talked about in the report is actually one of our concerns is that some of the professional bodies are actually pushing project management as a first career, saying that you can go to university and do a project management degree and start out your first career as a project manager. And what we're seeing is that that's not being reflected in the age demographic. So we're concerned about the conveyor belt effects. So as the older generation start to retire, we've got we've got less people coming up through the ranks to take over those people eventually. So that was, is one of the things that we will continue to touch on, because how can you not? It's going to be something that either changes or stays the same as we go forward. And the other thing that's, is interesting about this is gender. In the UK, it's always, roughly, has been pretty same over the last decade, which is about 70% are male, 30% are female. And in comparison to the rest of the world, that's 80% and 20%. So, we think we're doing slightly better maybe than the rest of the world in trying to get some balance into who's doing projects. But actually, when you start to look at the age thing again, we can start to see that actually it's the males that dominate the 35 years plus age profile, whereas at the younger end of the scale, that's less than 29 years of age, it's very much, in some cases it's equal, and then when you go in the mid-range between about 25 years old, actually there's more women working in project management than men. So it's an interesting looking at that and thinking, if we're thinking about a profession, often we concentrate a lot on improving best practice, how can we get projects more successful, blah, blah, blah. But actually there's some really interesting human aspects to this about what will a profile look like of the project management industry in the next 20 years or so. So age and gender is one of the key findings, and then I've got the other two are very different. This year we focused on an area around career development. So one of the things that I was particularly interested to hear, and this is from the conversations that we have with people when they're going through career development and wanting to understand where they can go next and all that kind of stuff. Actually, I was quite surprised how many project managers do they actually have career development plans in place in order to be able to support them in their career. And again, the figures come out there, which is 63% have responsibility for their career development plan. 23% have no agreed plan at all. Okay, the numbers might feel small, but if you look again at another figure, 68% have no annual budget for their development. So, in some cases, some people they take responsibility for their career development totally themselves. 33% of them take responsibility with their organisation. So, and then there's, some people just don't have anything at all. And I was surprised at that. But then I thought, it actually is probably backed up with the anecdotal experience that I've had from talking with people. But so perhaps, that they're not being as serious about their career development as they should be. But when we did look at the kind of things that they're focusing on, this was really interesting for me because in relation to the new PMI talent triangle, where they've now put a focus around the business management skills and strategic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What I'd found with this is actually that was one of the most important areas that they were looking at in terms of their development for the coming year. So 63% of them said, I want to spend some more time looking at this particular aspect versus 50% just doing, the PPM knowledge type stuff. So the normal types of project management courses and things like that. So that was interesting because, it's a relatively new thing, isn't it? The talent triangle and that focus. So that's, it's obviously, it's trickling down and people are really thinking about it, which is great. And the other thing as well that will be interesting to you, Cornelius, is that we asked them about, what kind of things are you doing to develop? The most popular are things like books and journals, that kind of stuff, 71%. But actually, a lot of people are turning on to online. So things like, this podcast, for example, 66% of people are choosing to go and look for resourcing online to help them develop. So a while back, obviously, before the internet exploded, that you would see that people were doing a lot more classroom training, for example. So, we're seeing a shift. But again, interesting stuff. We've not really asked those questions before to a whole bunch of practitioners. So good to get feedback.
All right, so we have age and gender as the first one, career development as the second. What's the third?
It's agile. I'm sure nobody will be that surprised about it, but one of the things we had to do was to understand. We've been hearing a lot of stuff about it, a lot of noise around agile. So one of the things that we've been able to look at was, did we see any people doing accreditations, for example, around that whole agile space? And it's slow. There's very slow traction. We've just been tracking back for a couple of years. So, the figures are still in single digits. So it's not really in proportion with the amount of noise and hype around agile. But we'll carry on tracking that. But one of the things we wanted to do was, what is the opinion of some of the practitioners around this stuff? And, there's not a lot of people doing purely agile projects. It's just 8%, but actually that's an increase of 3% over the year. And vast majority, there's 37%, are using agile on selected projects. But one of the things that's one of the highest figures, 84% said that they disagree with this demise of waterfall. It's just totally over-exaggerated. So, we're of the mind that there's lots of approaches to successful project management and everybody's welcome. So to this whole agile waterfall dissing, of each other, this kind of needs to stop so we can focus on getting some of the good practice out of it. And things
I think it's kind of a useless discussion, agile waterfall. It's similar to what's more important, having industry expertise or project management expertise. I mean, they go hand in hand. They're more important in one area than the other. So I think it's exactly the same with agile and waterfall. Did you also see agile reflected in training and development as to what people are trying to get into?
I think in terms of like I said, the accreditations are really the training and development stuff around agile, i.e. the only thing we can really track at this point is what are the official training courses that people are doing. And I think it's Scrum that has been the most successful. But we have one here in the UK, which is Agile for Project Management, which is people are taking it. But again, the numbers are minuscule in comparison to the other project practices, things like MSP, Prince2, APM, PMI stuff. It's still very, very small. So I think it's early days. I think we'll be looking with keen interest to see how that develops over the next few years.
No, very interesting. One section in the report that immediately drew my attention is titled, "What is a typical project manager?" Please tell us. Well, what are we most typically like?
Right, okay. Well, you'll probably be slightly disappointed, or actually maybe not disappointed in the answer.
Okay.
It's impossible to say what typical...
we know that we are 70 to 30% male-female. That much we've got covered.
Yeah. But, there's too many variables in project management anyway. So, for example...
I see.
If you took, whether you're working permanently or as a freelancer. So, for example, the report pulls out that if you're working in a freelance basis, you're more likely to just be delivering one project. But if you're an employee, chances are that you have 5 or more on the go. Okay, so nothing typical there. We found that actually when it comes to direct reports, actually a lot of people don't have them. 62% don't. So obviously some people do. We asked about things like span of control. So if you think about span of control in terms of project teams, like if you don't have a direct report, but they're obviously under your control, 44% have less than 10. So, again, that's obviously going to be a lot of project managers out there that well, less than 10, wow, my project team's like 250 or whatever. So we have things like the different types of projects, which obviously are going to dictate what kind of project manager. The figures have come out, but the vast majority of projects in the UK are either business transformation or business systems type projects. Whereas if you compare that to the rest of the world, the most prominent projects are software development, which, again, read into that what you will, but it's, the report's very good for throwing in a little nugget out there and thinking, okay, I might go and have a look at what's going on in that. I wonder why that is. Other things, again, is what type of project. If it's strategically important, is it operationally important? Is it complex? Is it, what kind of risk is involved? So you can see that, there is no typical, we can't have a typical profile. And I think that comes out actually when you're looking for a new job or indeed trying to find a project manager. It becomes very apparent very quickly. But one thing that vast majority of project managers typically get measured on is delivering the project in time, which is 65%.
Right. So does this maybe also reflect the fact that every project is different? So pretty much every project manager has to be different. Yeah,
which is not, there's going to be core underlying things that are the same, but it's Well, what did we say? The art or science? Well,
You also have a section about salaries in the report. What did you find?
We found that generally, project managers, by the way, what we've found over the years, are actually quite positive people, by and large. So when you ask them about things like outlooks and am I going to get a salary increase this year, generally, they're very positive in that they will. And to be fair, this time, it's been a rough few years from 2008. We all know that. And things have been up and down. But this year, there's 56% of people got an increase. However, the increases are small. We're talking just 2% above inflation, which is not a thing really to be singing and dancing about. So, 35% of people got no change at all, and then 9% are taking a cut. So it's good to see the figures at least are on the increase, but we'd like to see better increases, obviously. And again, it's the same for freelancers. It's very steady, which I think is probably the word to sum up this year. Which, it's not bad, which is as good as we can get. But so the outlook for this year, again, steady, which there's obviously a lot of other factors that are going involved in the market and economic conditions and stuff, as no doubt you've been hearing about the UK. So there's going to be a lot of things that could potentially impact that confidence.
For you personally, what is the most surprising report result?
A surprising one for me was we have a section in there about what organisations are hiring, what their outlooks are and what they've been experiencing. And this year we found that organisations have actually failed to hire some of the open roles that they've got. And what is surprising is that it's actually doubled to 43% this year, which, is a really interesting insight, which you can talk about and attribute many different factors as to why that is. We like to think, and just from our experiences, we find it difficult to find good project managers that are well experienced, that are obviously wanting to find a new opportunity. So that's obviously borne out with organisations are finding it hard to hire roles as well.
And of course, obviously, I have to ask this: what is the least surprising result that you have found?
Prince 2 is still the most popular accreditation in the UK and has...
Yeah, what a surprise, right? What a non-surprise, yes.
Well, you did want the least surprising, but yeah, it's still the most popular thing.
Anything catching up to it?
Again, it depends on what kind of role, Cornelius. I mean, what we've found with program managers, for example, that actually the UK accreditation, managing successful programs, is actually, catches it up quite a lot. As indeed it does for PMO managers, by the way. So they tend to take the MSP more than the Prince 2. So, but again, and then it's the usual suspects. People are, doing the APM, APMP, and the PMI stuff as well. So, but not really closing on the gap. It's quite a long way out there, the Prince 2 thing. Yeah.
The report is 36 pages long, and if I count it right, there are 7 pages of advertising in there. How come? It's well, a couple of things really. I mean, the people, obviously, everything that's in there is all project management related, and obviously from an advertiser's point of view, they see it's a great opportunity to get in front of people all year round. So from that point of view, it also helps us to keep doing it. We've made a big investment in what we use survey-wise. It's quite a complicated thing that we're using, and it all costs money. So it's nice to be able to have a bit of support and sponsorship. It's like anything, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
We've heard that you are in the UK. We talked a little bit about the situation in the UK, and of course, at this time, we have to talk about the Brexit. The UK is leaving the European Union. The report itself was published before the Brexit vote. At this time, what is your best guess as to what is this going to mean for project managers in the UK? Yeah,
I mean, it's like anything, isn't it? It's like, gosh, who knows? But what we found out, pretty much straight away, because I think one of the things you find out as soon as there's any kind of anything that could unsettle a market, you tend to feel it in the labour sector. So, for example, one of the reports that came out pretty much within days highlighted that actually you'll probably see a reduction in permanent employment opportunities, but there'll be an increase in the contract and freelance stuff. It's like anything, where there's uncertainty, people tend to switch their hiring habits. And sure enough, we can start to see that already. So there's no guessing there involved. You can pretty much see it straight away. It's amazing just how quickly it happens. But again, from our point of view, I mean, we're obviously waiting and seeing, and I think every bit of news that drips out, and it will be a dripping process. I mean, we've got 2 years before they have to do anything about it. So I expect we'll start to hear things dripping out about it. But I think since it's happened, yes, things went a bit mad, but actually now we're all settled back down into it's business as usual, because actually nothing's really been said about it. So, it's interesting, isn't it? Maybe I can ask you the same question about your presidential, elections that are coming up, because you've potentially got the same impact.
Yes, the good thing is I'm a dual citizen. I can always go back to Switzerland if I don't like the outcome of the vote. Yes. Since we're talking about the UK, the report is somewhat UK-centric. How does it translate to the rest of the world? Does it apply?
It does, because all the way through the report, we do put in rest of the world. I mean, okay, fair enough, we can't go into individual countries. We'd love to. So if you're listening to this in any part of the world and want to get involved, please do next year. We'll get some more details about it. But there are comparisons throughout it. So, you can read through and not feel like it's too UK-centred. If anything, it's going to give you a comparison between your own country, your own markets versus what's going on in the UK. And like I said, a lot of this stuff actually doesn't really matter where you are in the world. Some of the topic areas, are still really valid to you as an individual.
Yeah, and on page 1 of the report, you actually have a world map with dots showing where all the respondents came from. And there's pretty much a dot, on all 5 continents and all over the place. So it's quite well balanced worldwide. Now, where can our listeners download this report? We are going to be including it as part of the podcast as well, so that it gets pushed to them. But where can they get it from your website?
Yeah, if you were to visit As People, it's ARRAS people.co.uk, you will see the benchmark report. We call it PMBR. You'll see it on the website on the front page and the menu there. Please do download it, even though you will have a copy, because we will just notify you when the new one is open later on in the year. So if you'd like to take part, I mean, one thing that we always say is that actually taking part in the survey is a bit of an experience in itself as well, because some of the questions that we're asking you are, like we said, about we'll pick certain topics, and they're actually quite interesting to take some time and reflect, which you might find a useful exercise in itself. So yeah, visit the website and fill out the form, and we'll let you know about the new one as well.
Right. So just to be clear, if I understood this right, so if I download the report from your website, you ask me for my name, email address, I get the free report, and then next year you're going to say, hey, Cornelius, you downloaded last year's report, 2017 survey is open, please participate.
Yes, please.
Got it. To close, what are the 3 things based on your report's findings that our listeners should begin thinking about or even applying on their projects and, of course, on their careers today?
I would say, well, the first one is the section, particularly for this year, the section that we've got around career development. Please do have a look at it, because I'd really like project managers to be thinking more about their career development, and rather than letting their organisation, do your career development to you. It's a reminder that actually this is, you own your career. Nobody's going to be as interested in it as you are. So it's an action to, do you know what? I'm just going to take some time out to do some reflective thinking about this. So career development is obviously one area. The second bit is just, is a bit about the training. So again, it's related to development. But within the report, there's a huge long list of all the project management courses that you could possibly do, which is an insight in itself. But again, there could be something in there that sparks your interest in thinking, actually, you know what, I don't really know enough about this particular area or whatever. So I'm going to have a look at the great big list of the stuff. And basically, just throughout the report I think there's a big value in just doing some comparisons against against the peers, both positive and negative. I mean, I know some people that have picked up the report have thought, I feel a lot better having read it, because actually I feel like I'm in the right kind of banding salary-wise. I feel like I've got a good balance of training and education, and it's actually quite a nice exercise just to go through that and to know where you are, really.
All right, Lindsay, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And that was our interview on the Project Management Benchmark Report with Lindsay Scott. Remember, if you are a project manager who wants to become PMP or PMI ACP certified, then the easiest way to do so is with our sister podcasts, the Project Management Prepcast or the Agile Prepcast, and study for the exam by watching the in-depth exam prep video training from pmprepcast.com. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. As always, you can find us on the web at pm-podcast.com. Please send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. If there is a 50% chance of something going wrong, then 9 out of 10 times, it will. Until next time.